The film begins with Vlad, a famous star who suddenly decides to quit his old life and escape from fame. He starts moving between coastal cities, searching for peace in any way he can. One day, he walks into a quiet bar, sits alone, and tries to forget the past. Suddenly, a beautiful girl enters, catching his attention immediately, and calmly orders a cold beer with confidence. Vlad tries to get her attention and approach her, especially since his name is still well known everywhere. But she clearly ignores him, as if she's not interested at all, and sits alone at another table inside the bar. This really bothers Vlad, making him feel like his time has passed and he's no longer the man he used to be. The situation gets worse when a man named Sergey walks in and sits with the girl. The moment she sees him, she asks him to leave with her immediately, as if there's a serious issue between them that must be resolved at once, especially since he's traveling. An argument starts between them, and the girl attacks him over his complicated life. He's married and has a family, and she doesn't see any future for them. In the middle of this tension, Vlad rudely interrupts them and begins provoking the girl in front of Sergey. Sergey gets angry and tries to stop him, but things quickly spiral out of control. Vlad keeps provoking him and pushes him into an embarrassing situation. Suddenly, the wig Vlad is wearing falls off, exposing him in front of everyone, turning the moment into public humiliation. Sergey tries to regain his dignity and appear strong in front of the girl, so he acts dramatically and leaves the bar with her. Outside, he begins threatening and showing off his strength. Then Vlad appears again, taunts him, and throws the wig on the ground. Sergey explodes with rage and brutally beats Vlad in front of everyone, fulfilling his threats and leaving him badly injured on the ground. After what happens, Sergey's girlfriend is deeply impressed by the strength she witnessed, as if the incident completely changed her view of him. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the city, a doctor leaves the hospital during his break, but suddenly finds a severely injured girl bleeding heavily. He rushes to save her and takes her quickly to the hospital. The doctors try to get information from her, her name or family, but she only repeats one name in a strange way, Vlad, before losing consciousness completely. The next day, Vlad wakes up as if nothing happened and starts looking for work as a bodyguard after becoming unemployed. He goes to a gambling place hoping to find an opportunity. There, he meets an old colleague named Benny, and they talk about his strange life and how he always escapes trouble in mysterious ways. Vlad tries to appear confident and exaggerate his image in front of others. During their conversation, a young man named Sars enters, searching for a specific bodyguard, and by coincidence, Vlad is chosen, even though Sars doesn't actually know him. Sars asks Vlad to introduce himself and list his qualifications. Vlad begins inventing fictional stories about heroic achievements, from boxing championships to military experience and large amounts of money. At the same time, he sarcastically admits that he's lying, which makes Sars laugh, but in the end, he agrees to hire him, and they set a time to start working together. Later, Vlad returns home, but is surprised to find Sergey visiting him, not to take revenge, but to give him money as compensation for what happened, explaining that his behavior was just a show in front of the girl. Vlad takes only half the money, responds sarcastically, and suggests he buy a new wig to replace the lost one. Afterwards, he goes out to eat, happy with the cash he has, meets his friend Mary, and they mock the people around them in a sarcastic way. But the real surprise comes when Vlad returns home and finds the injured girl, the one who was in the hospital, sitting there. He stands shocked, unable to understand how she got to his place, especially since she had been asking for him by name. This pulls him into a new spiral of mystery as he tries to figure out what connects him to this girl and what secret lies behind all these strange events. When the girl, Holly, begins to regain consciousness, she tells Vlad everything that happened to her in detail. Her physical and psychological state is completely shattered. She explains that she had spent the night at a large hotel, and after finishing her day, she stepped into the elevator. There, she met a young man accompanied by 2 guards. In an instant, everything turned into a nightmare. They forced her, brutally tortured her, and didn't just assault her. They beat her savagely until her body was covered in injuries. In the end, they dumped her in front of the hospital as if she were nothing. Hearing this makes Vlad extremely angry, filled with rage, and he tries to get any details from her, their appearance or names, but she only remembers the name of the hotel. The moment Vlad hears the hotel's name, the Golden Block, his expression completely changes. He knows the place isn't ordinary. It's controlled by mafia groups and dangerous criminals. He had even warned her before not to go near it. Holly begs him to help her and take revenge for what happened. Her pain makes him hesitate, but eventually he decides to get involved despite the danger.
He heads to the hotel immediately and begins searching in his own way. He enters the laundry room and meets an old acquaintance named Milan, who works there and knows many secrets. He asks her about a man matching Holly's description. Milan becomes nervous, but agrees to help and asks him to meet her after work. When they meet, she tells him the man's name is Danny, and this is the biggest shock. Danny turns out to be the son of a powerful Italian mafia boss and heir to enormous influence, protected by two of the most dangerous bodyguards. She clearly warns Vlad that messing with people like that never ends well. Vlad listens, but doesn't show fear. He returns to Holly and tells her he found nothing. Holly explodes at him, accusing him of lying. She shares more details, that after assaulting her, Danny threatened her with a gun and forced her to say she loved him. For her, the issue becomes more than revenge. It's a deep psychological wound. Vlad begins to suspect she may be unstable, but he still can't ignore what happened. Later, he goes to work with SARS, moving between city casinos while acting as a bodyguard. There, he meets an old acquaintance named Cassandra, who had admired him for a long time. After finishing work, Holly's story keeps troubling him. He goes back to her and tells her the truth about Danny, yelling at her for lying about going to the police. She responds that the police can't do anything against people like that, and reminds him that she once stood by him. Now it's his turn. Despite his fear of the consequences, her words affect him, and he finally agrees, even knowing he might lose his life. Vlad returns to the hotel again and begins executing a plan to reach Danny. He knocks on the suite door, but the guards refuse to let him in. He pressures them using the name of an important person, and after hesitation, they allow him inside following a thorough search. The confrontation begins immediately. Vlad asks Danny about what he did to Holly, but Danny responds coldly and provocatively, as if it means nothing. He tries to buy Vlad off, offering a large sum of money to close the matter. Vlad is shocked by his disrespect, but Danny goes further, threatening him with a gun and forcing him to praise him in a humiliating moment. Vlad plays along to avoid being killed. The tension rises until Danny loses patience and orders his men to throw Vlad out. Suddenly, Vlad explodes into action, fighting them with unexpected brutality. He breaks one man's leg and takes down the other in a shocking way using simple objects, dropping them all within seconds. Then he confronts Danny himself. Danny tries to shoot him, but Vlad is faster. He strikes him, knocks him unconscious, and ties them all up. After that, he calls Holly and tells her to come take her revenge herself. When she arrives, she's carrying weapons and burning with the desire for revenge. She stands in front of Danny, tied up and terrified, and the real moment of confrontation begins, the moment she had been waiting for ever since her life was destroyed.
Holly takes the money that was in the desk drawer, but even though she has recovered part of her rights, it's obvious there's still a burning rage inside her. She can't calm down and keeps thinking about revenge more than anything else. Before leaving, Danny tries to talk to her and says he loves her in a very provocative moment. She refuses to kill him right then, choosing instead to humiliate him in front of his men and shatter his image. After that, she leaves with Vlad. He gives her the full $50,000, but she insists on splitting it in half, as if she sees him as a partner in what happened, not just someone who helped her. Holly then becomes worried and warns him that they must leave the city immediately, because Danny will definitely tell his father, the mafia boss, and things will escalate quickly. But Vlad, reckless by nature, doesn't think the same way. Instead of escaping, he decides to go to the casino and gamble with the money, believing it's his chance to win $500,000 and finally live the life of the rich. He goes to the casino and meets Cassandra. They start playing together, but at first he loses a noticeable amount, making him feel he should stop. Later, he sits with SARS and apologizes for what happened earlier. Suddenly, he realizes how the casino drains players, as if he finally understands the game. He returns to the table, this time with strange confidence and intense focus, and begins winning round after round. Everyone is surprised, as if luck has suddenly chosen his side. He keeps winning until he actually reaches $500,000. He's extremely happy, feeling he has achieved his lifelong dream. But instead of walking away, greed starts taking over. When he goes to withdraw the money, he stops, thinking that his dream has changed. Now he wants to reach $1 million. He returns to the table and bets everything in a single round, convinced he will win. The moment is incredibly tense. Vlad is very close to victory until the final card, which he's sure will favor him. But the shot comes when it turns out the opposite, and he loses everything in a single instant, not just the winnings, but also the money he had from the start. He walks out with strange calm, but inside he's shattered. He goes into the bathroom, breaks down in frustration, then drinks until he completely loses focus.
He later wakes up in a luxurious hotel with SARS beside him, taking care of him and trying to comfort him. But Vlad doesn't seem to care anymore. At that moment, SARS confesses a shocking truth. He never needed a bodyguard. He's so rich he could buy the whole city, but his only problem is that he's a coward, and he wanted Vlad to teach him courage. The confession leaves Vlad confused and angry, and he distances him from him. He returns to the casino, but this time trouble comes to him. Mafia men arrive to take him, but he refuses and explodes into violence, beating them brutally in front of everyone. The fight escalates as more men arrive, but he keeps control until the police intervene and arrest him. He's then taken to meet a powerful boss named Bibi, who has heard Danny's story. Strangely, Vlad knows him well, and their confrontation is filled with tension. Danny tries to turn the story against Vlad, but Vlad responds cleverly, questioning his words and embarrassing him in front of Bibi with sharp questions, especially when hinting at what happened with Holly. Bibi begins to doubt his son. In the end, he lets Vlad go, but warns him that staying in the city is now extremely dangerous because Danny will definitely seek revenge. Vlad returns to Mary's restaurant with no money at all, wondering what to do. Then SARS appears again, decides to help him, and gives him a travel ticket and a check for $500,000 to fulfill his dream, thanking him for teaching him courage. Before things calm down, Danny and his men surround the place to kill Vlad. SARS intervenes in a strange way, distracting them, allowing Vlad to escape. The final chapter of confrontation begins. Vlad hides on top of a building, thinking about everything he's been through, then decides to face his fate. He comes down and attacks them with full force and without fear, taking them down one by one in a brutal fight that proves he's more dangerous than all of them. In the end, he reaches Danny himself and finishes the matter harshly, as if settling every score at once. After that, he walks away calmly, meets SARS who says goodbye, and finally leaves the city. He heads to the island he always dreamed of, ready to start a new life far away from all the chaos he lived through.